We now have the Chicago Bears updated injury report for tonight's game against the Washington Commanders. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we're going to talk about some of the key matchups for the Chicago Bears that they need to take advantage of if they want to have any hope of breaking their 13-game winning streak. We're going to talk about that all. Plus, Peter King says that he would not be surprised if Matt Eberflus is fired after a big loss tonight. We're going to get to all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today. And first up, we got the updated injury report. So the players that are listed out that aren't on injury reserve list, which of course those players aren't coming back, are Chase Claypool is listed as a healthy scratch. Eddie Jackson is listed as out right now with his foot, and then Jalen Johnson as well due to a hamstring injury. So this means, again, our secondary continues to be just completely and utterly struggle, right? Like when it comes to injury, like it's tough when in that secondary, and we'll see how that secondary performs tonight against the Washington Commanders. They showed some flashes in the first half, but overall that defensive performance was pretty bad in last week's game or Sunday's game. So we'll see if they can rebound from that, play a little bit harder with that type of thing. Also, Jaquan Brisker and Tevin Jenkins are both listed as questionable for today's game. Now, we knew that or heard that Tevin Jenkins was listed as his ability to return to practice. He's off the injury reserve, so that's good, right? Now, Jaquan Brisker's dealt with a number of kind of nagging things over the course of the season. So, we'll see if Jaquan Brisker can't go. That means 3 of our starting defensive backs will be out against the Washington Commanders. So, what we'll end up seeing with that. Overall, I'm sure the Bears are hopeful for, kind of the offense kind of build upon what they did last week. And so next up, we're going to talk about some of the keys to the Chicago Bears as far as what they need to do to have success today against the Washington Commanders. And the first one is how you gonna stop that defensive line, right? What are you gonna do to stop Chase Young and Montez Sweat? Like, you cannot at all. Like, they're both on pace to have more than 10 sacks this season, right? When you look at the number of sacks that we've already given up this year, right? It does not bode well for the Chicago Bears and the offensive line to stand up, especially when you're talking about a player like Tevin Jenkins being out, our offensive line in general not having much continuity or success, right? And then you have defensive tackles Jonathan Allen and Darren Payne. Like, the defensive line of the Washington Commanders is absolutely a star-studded defensive line. And so how the Chicago Bears perform against that defensive line may tell the story of what happens in this week's game, right? And, it could be the difference. This offensive line looking formidable, right? I'm not even expecting them to look great, right? Just put up a fight. This offensive line putting up a fight could be the difference between being 0-4 and going 0-5 to start the season, which I'm sure most people are expecting the Chicago Bears to start 0-5, and the defensive line of the Washington Commanders is a huge reason why, and you cannot overlook that. This offensive line for the Chicago Bears has been shitty all season long, and so we'll end up seeing what that means for the Chicago Bears and if they can do it. I mean, Justin Fields, if he can build on his performance, right? And I get it, he was facing a Denver Broncos defense, and you have to, just being realistic and even being optimistic, you still have to give it the fact of look at the defense he was facing off against, right? But if he can build upon that performance with confidence, understanding how he can be poised at times, right? The decision-making, the extending plays that he did, it can help the Chicago Bears, but overall, that's a huge question mark. Now, if Tevin Jenkins does play as well, that helps that offensive line. He's listed as questionable. I hope that he's able to go because we're going to need him to go. We're absolutely going to need him to go, and we're going to have to use our playmakers, right? This is going to have to be a game where we're going to have to rely heavily on the players that we have that can make big plays. That means getting DJ Moore involved. That means Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson being involved in it. That means allowing Justin Fields to be himself, using Cole Kmet in the right situations, and Darnell Mooney as well, right? Can Darnell Mooney get a touchdown? These are all things that you're looking at for the Chicago Bears in this game and asking, can they do enough to stay in this game? Listen, Listen, it's been a difficult season for the Chicago Bears. There have been some flashes with some things, but even me being an optimistic Bears fan, it's hard to take away too much positive from this season. There is some, but if we can build upon some things, right? If we can find success on the ground, especially to set up the pass, right? Or vice versa, because that's basically what we used in last game. We set up the pass early, and then the run came along after that. But we're going to have to find a way to find some type of consistent level of not only play calling, but also in performance on the field. And that's the next thing, right? What did the Chicago Bears coaches do different this week, right? What did they really learn from last week's game? Did Luke Getsy learn, hey, let me keep my foot on the pedal when it comes to this play calling. Let me not allow myself to get stagnant. Let me not freak out if we're not playing with the lead, right? Luke Getsy right now, the one thing you can say about him is he's a front runner. When the Bears are operating with a lead, which hasn't happened very much, when they are operating with a lead, the play calling is completely different than what it is when we're coming from behind. So, is that a pause? I think that may be a pause. But with that being said, you have to get that in gear for the Chicago Bears in today's game. And we'll see if they can end up doing that, right? What's my faith level on this game? I'm not going to lie to you. Right now, my frustrations, you guys know, if you saw the live stream last week, I broke my chair. My desk chair is held together right now by duct tape and nothing but strength of God. That's what's holding my desk chair together right now. I got to get a new one. It is what it is there. But with that said, I don't have the utmost faith in the Chicago Bears team to turn it around because they haven't shown us much to give us much to have faith in, right? There have been some, like I said, some. Darnell Wright has been a bright spot. Roschon Johnson, yeah, he's been a bright spot when you look at the in totality, right? Justin Fields' play last week, hopefully he can build on it. That shows something. But overall, this team has not shown a lot consistently to where you can really look at it. This team needs a win. And at this point, I don't give a damn how the win comes. I don't care if it's an ugly win. I don't care if it's a pretty win. I don't care if it's a dominant win. I don't give a damn if we win by goddamn safety. The Chicago Bears need a win. And when you look at the coaching staff and ask the question that I presented is, what has the coaching staff learned from last week, right? Because they did some things, right? Specifically on the offensive side of the ball. But I tell you what, if this coaching staff isn't learning from their mistakes, I tell you what, it's bad. It's bad. And so, it's hard right now as a Chicago Bears fan, right? I think most people will do that. But, we don't have the ability to really get pressure on the quarterback. I would love to say that we can get pressure on Sam Howell, but we haven't done that consistently. We haven't called blitzes consistently or executed them well enough for me to have any faith in that, right? So it's difficult right now to sit in a place as a Bears fan and say, let's have this optimism for XYZ, because we just haven't seen it. We haven't seen it consistently. We haven't seen it executed. Our secondary is often injured, has been picked apart all season long, right? So it's hard to take away a bunch of positives for a team that has struggled in every aspect of the game. The only Bear that you could say hasn't really struggled is Cario Santos, the kicker. And freaking C-Dub hates kickers, right? So we got things that we absolutely need to improve on. We got tons of things with that. But you know what? We'll see, man. We'll see. And, I want to talk about this before we go. Peter King came out and he said that he would not be surprised if Matt Eberflus is let go if we suffer a big loss in today's game. And here's my thought process on that. I would love to say that I agree with that. I don't know if this Bears team is in a position to where they're open to do that. This exact quote from Peter King. He says this: I would not be surprised if it's a bad loss Thursday and if the Bears make a change. It wouldn't be surprising. And while I would love to be able to say that I sit here and say I agree with that, I don't know if Ryan Poles is prepared to really make that level of change in the middle of the season. Listen, I would love to. I really would love to say that Ryan Poles is going to come in and say it, but listen, I don't know, man. I really don't know. I guess we'll see, man. I guess we'll see. And I know some Bears fans are holding hope out for players like Caleb Williams and stuff, but there's nothing to say right now that, Caleb Williams would even come to the Chicago Bears, right? And so, Matt Eberflus was actually asked about this, and he said this on Wednesday. Yeah, I feel the support. I haven't talked to anybody about any of those things. I feel support, and we're just focused on Washington. So, does that mean that Matt Eberflus doesn't feel the pressure? Should he feel the pressure? That's a story for another day. You're going to get a different answer from every Bears fan that you ask, right? Some are going to, point everything towards Justin. Some are going to point it towards Ryan Poles. Some are going to point it towards Matt Eberflus. Some are going to say all three of those people need to go, right? But at the end of the day, there's a long season left ahead of us, and I wish I could say that in a positive way. I mean, this could be a long, difficult, and stressful-ass season for the Chicago Bears. But, we'll be tuned in right here, giving you content every day at Chicago Bears Central. We'll be tuned in as well for a pregame show today, an hour before game time, so make sure you guys are tuned in for that. We'll be breaking down all our thoughts and everything around the game. So make sure you guys are tuned in for that as well. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me know down below. Let me know your guys'. What are your expectations? Give me your predictions for the game today, whether it be score predictions, predictions on performance. Let me know any of that down below. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you're following the show at Shy Bear Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.